The storm over separating migrant children from their parents at the U.S.-Mexico border rages on tonight. President Trump is insisting that his only choices are separating out the children or releasing whole families without penalty. Amna Nawaz is in El Paso, Texas, and begins our coverage.
So what I'm asking Congress to do is to give us a third option.
In a Washington speech this morning, the president defended his policies and called for Congress to act.
We have been requesting since last year the legal authority to detain and promptly remove families together as a unit. We have to be able to do this. This is the only solution to the border crisis.
His legislative director, Mark Short, weighed in at the White House.
None of us is pleased with the situation at the border. We've been asking Congress to give us the resources, to give us more judges so that we can adjudicate these cases faster. And we've asked for a resolution on the Flores settlement that would give us the ability to keep children and parents together.
Last night, Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz announced emergency legislation to do just that. He proposes keeping families together as their cases proceed and increasing the number of immigration judges from roughly 335 to 750.
We can come together. We ought to all be united and say, of course, kids should be with their parents. And if we speed up the adjudication, that solves the problem.
But today, the president appeared to reject the option of hiring more judges.
I don't want judges. I want border security. I don't want to try people. I don't want people coming in. Do you know, if a person comes in and puts 1 foot on our ground, it's essentially welcome to America, welcome to our country. You never get them out.
Democrats again insisted that the family separations are of the president's making and within his power to stop.
Even if you believe immigration should be halted entirely, we all should be able to agree that in the United States of America, we will not intentionally separate children from their parents. We will not do that. We are better than that.
The pressure also kept building among Republicans, including Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski.
Short of legislation, I think that administratively, the Secretary, the Attorney General, the President, they could move on this tomorrow. There are multiple individuals in the administration that can fix it, and yes, legislation is one avenue, but it is not the only avenue.
Utah Senator Orrin Hatch said he was sending a letter to Attorney General Jeff Sessions, asking him to halt family separations at the border until Congress does take action. Meanwhile, the head of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Thomas Donahue, condemned family separations, saying this is not who we are and it must stop now. Several governors of both parties announced they will no longer send National Guard units to help along the border. All told, Border Patrol officials said today that since April, more than 2,300 children have been separated from their families, with some held in makeshift tent cities and warehouses. In Miami, Florida Democratic Senator Bill Nelson tried to visit one of the detention centers, but said he'd been turned away.
They are obviously trying to cover up. They don't want us to see it.
Free our children now!
In El Paso, Texas, hundreds of protesters marched in the desert heat.
I can't imagine a parent bringing their kid to this country, fleeing from murder, from rape, to come and try to find salvation for their kids. It bothers me because I love my children and I would do anything to protect them.
The majority of the people that come across this border come because of grave and serious reasons. You don't leave your family, you don't leave your country, your culture, your language, even the work that you did before, just because you feel like taking advantage of somebody else's system.
Amid the storm over separations, the president met late today with House Republicans at the U.S. Capitol. The House is set to vote on 2 immigration bills this week. And Senate Republican leaders said all of their members would now support legislation to keep migrant families together.
Of course, here in El Paso on the border, just a couple hundred yards or so from Mexico, this is a community that has long been dealing with immigration policy, on the front lines of it. But really, when it comes to the family separation policy, this is also a community that was ground zero. This is where the government first test ran the family separation policy for months before officially rolling it out across the country. And that, Judy, was back in November of 2017.
So, Amna, if they've been dealing with it there longer, what do they tell you they've learned about it?
Well, Judy, the folks who work on the front lines here basically say they're still learning. It's a complicated process. It is overwhelming for them. And the system, they say, is completely overwhelmed. There are not enough legal advocates to make sure that every adult who's being criminally prosecuted has legal representation. There aren't enough beds for the children who are now being separated from their parents and either moving through El Paso to other parts of the country or being housed here. And that's why you're seeing reports and hearing about places like Tornillo, which is the temporary tent city that has popped up just about 20 miles east of here. There are already a few hundred minors housed there, and we're told that they could house a few hundred more if necessary.
And Amna, what about people on the ground, people in the community? What are they telling you their reaction to all this is?
Well, you know, Judy, folks here have long been dealing with immigration, and a lot of people here have a very strong opinion on it. There aren't any local polls to tell us exactly how everyone feels specifically about family separation, but you saw there were a few hundred people who showed up at a protest to march on the detention center here earlier today. And those people were saying the same things we're hearing across the country, that this is not a representation of who we are as a country. I'll also tell you, the advocates who've been navigating this process for a very long time say that it is more complicated now than ever. Lawyers say if we as lawyers don't know how to navigate the system, how to reunify parents with their children, how are people who don't speak the language, how are children who are left without any information and stuck in the system supposed to navigate it? And I'll also tell you, as a journalist, it's incredibly complicated. There's very little transparency. We've all seen the media tours that the government has been allowing people on. They're very restricted. They're very controlled. We have requested access to the 4 detention centers for children here in El Paso. We've been told there are no tours scheduled. And so we're waiting to see if the government can provide any more information on those.
It certainly is complicated. Amna Nawaz on the ground for us in El Paso. Thank you, Amna.